Hello everyone and welcome back to the Book Refuge and welcome to my favorite moments and then book comparisons for episode 3 of the Netflix Bridgerton series, and this episode is called The Art of the Swoon. Oh boy, things are continuing. We had our fake dating continue and we also had it crumble in this episode, and we have some more major kind of book differences coming through, but also they're still kind of just continuations of what we've seen before. So let us start, as always, with kind of my overall impressions of this episode. And I really love this one, especially the first half, the first 40 minutes of it, maybe the first 2/3, where we're seeing the fake dating. So I think a lot of us who love historical romance, we really love the fake dating trope. We love seeing our characters continually put together, and whether it's a facade like this one to get someone attention or a facade for, Simon's side of it, where to keep attention away from themselves, there's just something fun where these two characters who have completely different motives and who normally wouldn't be spending any time around each other start to spend time together and just start to see all the things they like about each other. And so we really see in this episode how both of them independently are falling for the other one, and for one of them that's really exciting, and for the other one it is danger, danger. So we start this episode with some amazing aspects, and just to wrap up, sorry, I'm like jump through these. I get so excited to talk about it. So my overall impressions is I'm still really liking it, even though there are some major deviations. I actually really like one of the through lines that's different in this one, and we're going to talk about that. And then a lot of the stuff that's kind of just tweaked a little bit is really fun too, as well as there are some iconic book scenes in this episode that just brought me so much joy. So let's go ahead and get started. So this episode starts, one of the highlights we got to talk about is the ball that's at the beginning. So we are continuing with the fake dating. Simon and Daphne are working the crowd, making everyone think that they are together. And we see Simon pretending to be jealous. And then we see Daphne dance with a bunch of men, and they all are just not quite doing it for her. And every time she ends up back at Simon's side, there is fire between the two of them. There's chemistry. And Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton are both noticing it, and they're hoping that something's going to happen, but the Duke hasn't proposed yet. Little did they know, he's not planning to propose at all. So we don't know what we're going to do with that. And now Daphne is starting to realize that she might like Simon. And she does that by having maybe some, what for her are semi-erotic dreams. Really all she is imagining him maybe going to kiss her and touching the back of her neck and standing real close to her. But that's enough to kind of we all know how it is when we have those kind of dreams and we wake up feeling a little hot and bothered. And for her case, she doesn't know what to do with that. And we'll get around to what she does with that. But in the beginning of the episode, she doesn't. And so that ball is really a great time where we see they are both having feels, and they are handling it very differently. So the next moment that I have is an iconic scene from the book, one of my favorites from The Duke and I, and that is Daphne and Antony have milk in the kitchen together. So they both go downstairs, they run into each other, they can't sleep, and they go down to the kitchen and they're going to heat up some milk, and neither of them know how to use the stove. So they decide to have cold milk together. And I love this scene for so many reasons. Number one, we're finally getting to see that little bit of a mellowy inside of Antony. And I mean, I love Antony, and I, as I've shared, I like seeing this bit of a harder side of him because it's building him up for who he's going to be in the future. But I really enjoy getting to see him show some love towards his sister, because it's been pretty harsh the last couple episodes. It's been kind of frustrating. And so I really appreciated getting to see him just talk with her. And I like how he's starting to give her a little bit of insight on Simon. So she asks why he won't marry. And Antony's a little less defensive than he's been in other scenes, where he's kind of just like, Daph, he has reasons, and it's not our place to question his reasons, but we should listen when he says he doesn't want to marry. and that he didn't have a happy home. And though they were best friends, like, Anthony doesn't know much about where he came from at all, because Simon keeps that all really close to the vest. But I really do love this scene where we get to see them connecting together and get to see them be siblings, because I feel like we've only seen them be adversaries so far, and that's not a Bridgerton life to me. I mean, it is them, you know, Anthony wants what's best for her, but he's a loving brother. He was almost a father to especially the younger kids, and we just don't get to see him do that so far, because they're making him like an anti-hero in this show or whatever's going on. But I love this scene. Then there is a scene of Benedict with Lady Danbury at the art gallery, and I had to bring this one up, even though it's so quick, because we're at this place showing some art, and there's some art that Simon has donated, and there's this one painting that they're standing in front of with Lady Danbury and Benedict, and then there's this other guy sitting on the other side, and we as the viewers can kind of guess that this is probably going to be the artist, because Benedict kind of like slams this painting, and Lady Danbury is like egging him on. And then she's like, hey, meet this guy. Who's the artist of this painting? Which we definitely will see that guy later in a further episode. But I love seeing the beginnings of the artist in Benedict. And this is something he mostly keeps a secret from everyone but like Eloise, who that didn't make my top moments. It really should have. But I love the scenes that we see with Eloise and Benedict. But I love that beginning to see that he's an artist. That is definitely setting up for once we get to An Offer from a Gentleman, which is Benedict's book. And yeah, I mean, Benedict is really kind of the Bridgerton brother we'll see kind of like the least of during the series. But okay, Gregory. Fair point. Gregory doesn't really count for a while yet. But I loved getting to see that of him. And yeah, it was just really fun. And Lady Danbury, I was complaining in one of these that we didn't see enough of her with the Bridgertons, because those are some of my favorite scenes, is when she is riffing around with the Bridgerton family, because they all just really admire her, even though they're all scared of her. And so I liked getting to see her do that a little bit. And then also at the art gallery, my next moment to talk about is actually the gallery where just Simon and Daphne are in there looking at a painting. And they're kind of breaking down this painting, and Daphne's sharing her emotions. And we have the infamous like hand touch that is kind of like the hand flex from Pride and Prejudice. I know this was used in some of the art, and it's just their two hands like almost touching each other, and then they kind of hold hands for a couple seconds. Definitely to give Daphne some fodder for her spank bank in a little bit, but we'll get there. And I just really liked getting to see that, and this is the moment I think that it's starting to get kind of serious for both of them. Definitely for Daphne, you're seeing all those intakes of breath are so serious and everything, and Simon's feeling it too, because that breaking down the painting was just a really emotional moment for them, and it was adorable. It was fun to see. Then my last one that's on my favorites list, even though it happens kind of like midway through the episode still, is, of course, the masturbation talk. So we have been seeing a theme slowly through some of the episodes that mostly the Bridgerton women and Penelope as well, not knowing what happens between a man and a woman, not even knowing what that sex is a thing. And so Daphne finally is getting really frustrated with this, and so she asks Simon, and she's like, you're not really courting me, so this isn't inappropriate. Please explain to me what happens between a man and a woman, because my mom uses these really vague terms and I don't understand what it means. Like, she says to marry your best friend and then everything will be fun, but like, what happens? She says it's like intangible and tangible at the same time, and what are we talking about? And Simon just like can't believe that she doesn't know what this is at all, and he even laughs. He's like, I'm just stunned what mothers don't tell their daughters. And she's like, well, you tell me, please. And you know, I will say, knowing where this show goes, like, that is a I don't want to use sinister, but like, that is a foreshadowing of Simon maybe knowing what his bride doesn't know, and knowing that she doesn't know it. And so it does make it not sinister, but foreshadowing that like he knows that she doesn't know things. Because even when he explains it, and he explains to her what release is, and of course this is a very sexy, smoldering whispering in her ear about, you'll touch yourself in places that it makes you feel pleasure. And then when you find what really works for you, you just keep going until you reach a pinnacle and it'll feel amazing. And so she's like, okay, thanks for that. And he's like, that should be enough to get you going, which is funny. And then, of course, that leads to a scene of her actually testing that out. And it leads to her finishing her piano piece. And everyone has to laugh, right? Like, I just burst out laughing because when she finishes the piece of music, which is overlapped with her finishing her orgasm, her mom is like, "You finished. How delightful." And it's just like, oh God. And Daphne just kind of smiling. So those are my top favorite moments that were, top moments. So now I have some other things to talk about that are my book inaccuracies. And actually some of these inaccuracies I really, really liked, but I wanted to save them for the inaccurate part because they have anything to do really with the book line story, this book storyline. But let's go ahead and go over these. So the major one there's a few that are kind of big here, but the major one for this that kind of bookends the episode is Sienna, who was Anthony's mistress, who he let go of in the first episode. She has been trying to find another protector, and so we've seen her trying to lure in Simon, and we see her talk with her friend who is a modiste at the beginning of like, I need to find a protector who's not going to abandon me, someone who when he makes his promises, he'll keep it. And so this whole episode, she's trying to find somebody. And Anthony sees her doing it and he's getting pretty jealous. And before we see like the final part of this, I really feel for Sienna. I have read a lot of historical romances and I understand the position that this woman is in. She is an opera singer. She's doing something she's passionate about, but it's not a job that a respectable man is going to take her as a wife and let her do. And so she's resigned to being someone's mistress. And so having Anthony the Viscount as her, as her protector was her best option. And to have that kind of ripped away from her is really hard. And so because I am safe and content in the knowledge of who Anthony will end up with someday, and I may be willing to spoil like book events for this book, but we're not talking about future ones, and so I can't say who that is. A lot of you may know, I know that, but I'm willing to spoil the Duke and I, but I'm not going to spoil the Viscount who loved me. That is for later on. And so I'm content that I know he will be with this person. But I still really feel for Sienna because I think the actress does such a good job. She's not an evil person. She had someone who she thought really cared about her. And it's obvious that he does because that's the ending scene then as he comes back for her. And she's like, you're only here because you thought your friend was going to have me. And it's so much longing because he's like, I missed you. I want you. And she's like, you've made me promises before and I won't be your fool again. I have to find someone who won't break his word because this is my life. Like, this is just pleasure for you, but this is my life. And I just really feel for her. Like, it's really hard when you see, because women actually live like this and did live like this and some do now. And she is beautiful and talented and it's still not enough sometimes, And so this is a book inaccuracy that we see this. And in fact, maybe she will come back into play in a later on because Anthony, as we will see him, he's not someone who would be above having a mistress and a wife. And so it's interesting that the show's choosing to have him like he must have one or the other. Obviously, we as viewers and as romance lovers don't want our heroes to have a mistress and a wife, but Anthony's not at that place yet, so maybe that will be something that comes back around where he's like, I can have you as my mistress and have a wife. Plenty of people do it. I can do it too. So we'll see. But I was very proud of her for shoving him off and being like, we're done. I'm really proud of her for that. And so I was surprised, but that's a book inaccuracy. But I really like her. So then other book inaccuracies. The art exhibit, Benedict really showing interest in art early. We don't know for sure how he got interested in art, so this, again, might be, might be not. The next kind of biggest thing would be like the prince coming for Daphne, and, you know, we see them kind of flirting, but then she's with Simon, and so Simon actually breaks off their agreement. They weren't really together, but he breaks off their agreement after he realizes he's having some feelings for her, after they've had kind of that sex-ish talk, kind of talked about sex and masturbation and stuff. He realizes that he's getting in too deep and that he needs to get out of her way so that she can actually find a husband. He's done his part, and he's going to leave town anyway, so it's time to break it off so she can have a chance at the prince. And so Daphne decides to go for it. This is book inaccurate. In the book, they never get to a point where they have a break off of this beforehand. They haven't even kissed yet in the show. They definitely go to more fun events together, and the steam continues to build until it boils over. This break-off situation, having an extra person involved, it definitely will, you know, it extends this another episode or so before we get into the, you know, arranged marriage of it all that's coming up. But I don't think that I have like a big problem with it, because that is a thing that like stories like to do. And again, to make the stuff like fill out 8 episodes, I can understand why they do that. Adding in some competition, adding in some people to make Simon realize that he likes her more. It's very interesting. And again, not book accurate, but I'm not opposed to it. And I like that Daphne is like, well, fine, I'll give them what they want. And so she does kind of, it's not a glow up. That's the thing too, is it's filmed almost like it's a glow up. Like all she did was wear a different dress. Like she was wearing pretty dresses the whole time anyway. But she brings out the fan to enact the art of the swoon. And so I get that. That's the thing. Also, some interesting stuff. I really liked the, I believe this Benedict and Eloise talk does happen at some point. I think it might be with Eloise and it happens, but it happens in a later book. But I really like the conversation that they have, you know, out by the swing. But something I want to bring up, and this is, I mean, Eloise is our ball buster, right? She's great. I love her. I love the actress who's doing it. And I like how young and wild and crazy she is. I hope that we do get to see that as like an arc as we go through the seasons, because I feel like the Eloise we have once it's her book isn't quite this crazy. But she makes this statement to her brother that like, you're a man, therefore you have everything. Lady Whistledown is a woman, and even she's brave enough to write, but she's a woman, therefore she has nothing. And I understand the sentiment, and I realize that's a really black and white thing to say, and that's something that gets shown in Regency, is that like man equals power, woman equals not. And I hope that a lesson Eloise will learn in future is to see that that might be a very black and white way to look at things, and that women have power in different ways. That is true. And yeah, it might not always seem equal or fair, but the pendulum does swing, you know, it does swing. And there are areas that will always seem like they're male dominated always, but women have power in different ways. And there's one of my favorite, like, I think it's in, like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where it's like, the man may be the head of the family, but the woman is the neck, and the neck turns the head. It's like, I don't know. I understand the argument. And I understand where Eloise is coming from as being a young girl and feeling powerless and not having any say. And I like that she kind of kicks her brother in the butt, and she's like, you just need to try. I couldn't even try at what you want to do. So you need to stop being a weenie and just try. And so I do like that. And we're going to see where that goes in a later episode. And then the last one I want to bring up, that is a book inaccuracy. And again, I don't want to talk about this plot too much. Well, I need to talk about it, but I mean, as a book inaccuracy, I don't want to keep like nailing it home because we know. But we see some more stuff with Marina and Mrs. Featherington, and she has decided that Marina needs to get back out there and try to find a husband because we're not hearing back from George. And to get her to do that, Mrs. Featherington forges a letter from George Crane, and has it say that he like isn't coming back and that he, you know, won't be there, which is something Mrs. Featherington has already told Marina. And she has forged his handwriting from one of his previous letters that he sent her before he had gone away. And that is just, oof, that's going to have some implications for us. So yeah, again, all stuff that hasn't happened or doesn't happen, but it was very interesting plot. And so now we're going to see what Marina is willing to do. And this is what's going to lead to the thing that I will have the most to say about, is who Marina decides to set her sights on. And that is something that I do have a lot to complain about once we get there. So stay tuned for the spiciness of that. But yeah, all in all, I really like this. Ooh, one other fun like book moment is the list. So this didn't get its own moment because it's really short, but at the beginning of The Duke and I, the book, the three oldest Bridgertons, their mother made them a list of all the eligible women that she thought would be best for them. And so we get a little bit of like a cameo of that, where before they go to the final ball of this episode, she brings him the list and he's like, here's 16 ladies that I think will work for you. And he's like, I'll take it into advisement. He's one of the things I'm not really a huge fan of here is how like snippy the relationship between Violet and Anthony is. And I don't see that happening. All the Bridgerton children adore their mother. Like, they adore her. And they do so many amazing things just to please their mother. And so this kind of adversarial, like, snippy relationship we're having between Anthony and Violet really makes me sad. And I hope we get to see a healing of that in a future season or something, because Violet doesn't deserve that attitude. And Anthony just needs to, like, buck it up, Buttercup, because I'm getting kind of sick of his attitude. It's a thing. It's happening. And he's being an ass. I said it. So yeah, all in all, I really liked this episode. It was really sexy. It was fun. The next episode, A Matter of Honor, I think it's called, or An Affair of Honor. That one, we're going to get the ball rolling. Some things are going to be happening, and I cannot wait to break that down. Yeah, so excited. Having a great time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like this video. It really helps me out, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.